What's good, people? It's your content guy, Breeze here. First off, I want to thank you for coming over and checking out the channel. What we do here is we highlight the channels that are next to blow on YouTube. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. Next up on the roster, we have Crime Site. The content on the channel centers around this segment entitled The Final 24 Hours, where they give a detailed account on what transpired during the final hours of life for some of America's notorious criminals. In one video, they reveal what Ted Bundy's final 24 hours consisted of. Crime Site informs us that Bundy and his team were still putting on a merciless fight even though it was late in the game, with them putting in petitions and appeals on the state level and federal level at 8 a.m. this morning. His team argued he wasn't competent enough to be executed, hoping this would buy him time. But by 12 p.m., these hopes were shattered when the final appeal was denied. Around 1 p.m., Bundy was granted his final visit from his mother. The visit was brief, but very hard for Louise Bundy, as she was seen leaving the precinct in tears. By 3 p.m., Bundy decided to meet with his spiritual advisor, perhaps in an effort to seek forgiveness before his impending death. Around 5 p.m., Bundy had his final public interview, where he blamed porn addiction for his murderous ways. He expressed remorse for his actions during the interview, but this was met with skepticism because of Bundy's manipulative personality. After the interview, Bundy was served his last meal. Instead of an elaborate meal, Bundy chose the standard last meal, which included steak, eggs, toast, milk, and juice, which he barely touched. Around 8 p.m., the fear of death seemed to be weighing on Bundy. He met with the prison chaplain and his lawyer one final time. Bundy, the man who claimed to be the most cold-hearted person you ever could meet, was reeling in defeat, with his lawyer describing him as being in a state of near panic and his bravado crumbling. Later that night, Bundy tried his best to put on a strong face for the onlookers as his walk to the execution chamber approached, but it was a failed attempt, as many people described him as nervous and scared during the final hours. In another video, Crime Site covers the final 24 hours of Whitey Bulger's life, with them posing an interesting question at the end of the video. The question is, did Bulger get what he deserved that day, or was it a cowardly act done to an 89-year-old man? Crime Site also covers the final 24 hours of John Wayne Gacy's life. They discuss how Gacy's execution didn't go as smooth as planned, and they let us know what his last words were. So y'all go check out the interesting content being produced over at Crime Site. Next up on the roster, we have Life of a Gangster. The content on the channel covers the most famous mobsters and gangsters in history, from the mafia to bank robbers to cartel drug dealers or even the outlaws of the Wild West. In one video, they cover Frank Matthews, the drug lord that got away with over $100 million. Frank Matthews' story is really an untold story, especially when it comes to the masses. But really, why would Hollywood want to tell a story where the black man got away with all the money at the end? Specifically, a black man that was the head of his empire and totally independent of mafia control. On the channel, they let us know that Frank's life started out in mystery, with conflicting accounts on his upbringing, with a lot of people lying about knowing him just to be in the limelight. As far as the people go that really knew him, they refrain from talking about him. But we do know he was born in Durham, North Carolina on February 13th, 1944. There's little to no information about Matthews' father, and his mother died when he was barely 4 years old. He was raised by his aunt from there on out. Growing up in Durham, Matthews was able to see successful black entrepreneurs, as Durham was home to one of the most prosperous black communities in the country, despite it being in the segregated South. Al Bradley, an author that wrote extensively about Frank's life, thinks that Frank being able to see successful black men in his youth in Durham shaped the man he became tremendously. During the early 60s, Frank left Durham, headed towards New York to make some money. Initially, when Frank moved to New York, he worked as a barber and ran numbers. But once Frank realized how much money the drug dealers were making on the corner, he turned in his barber coat. Frank tried to establish a relationship with the mafia, including the Bonanno family and the Gambino family. But for whatever reason, they turned him down. This minor setback didn't deter Frank. He eventually met a Cuban plug from his ties in the numbers game. Being supplied by the Cuban plug, Frank quickly became a major drug dealer in only a year's time. Frank scaled his business by focusing on getting the purest product he could find. This is what separated him from his competitors and led to him selling his product in 21 different states. It's estimated that Frank made $600,000 a day, and his fortune was up to $300 million that he amassed in only 4 years. Frank held conferences for the elite black drug dealers in the country, one in Atlanta and one in Las Vegas. These meetings were held to discuss improving business operations. These meetings are the reason the authorities started investigating Frank. They checked the license plates of the vehicles at the meeting and figured out who all the attendees were. After a year of investigating, the the authorities had enough to arrest Frank. They arrested him at Las Vegas International Airport. Bail for Frank was initially set for $5 million, then reduced to $2.5 million, then down to $325K, which would prove to be a grave mistake. Frank paid the bail and was once again a free man. Frank was to appear back in court on July 2nd, 1973. When Frank pulled a no-show on July 2nd, he was considered a fugitive, and this is when the mystery of Frank's disappearance began. Also on the channel, they cover the godfather of Harlem, Bumpy Johnson. So y'all go check out the great content being produced by Life of a Gangster. Next up on the roster, we have Dose of Mystery. The content on the channel covers the final hours of life for some of the most popular people in entertainment. They give all the details that led to the untimely demise of these individuals, but it's done in a respectful way, where they shed light on what these individuals meant to the world, while also sharing what these individuals meant to their loved ones. The channel highlights things about these events that aren't widely known. When referring to the Young Dolph murder, they educate us on the fact that one of the suspects got on police radar because the car used during the Dolph homicide was left at the same location where one of the suspects shot a music video at previously. When referring to the Lil Snoop homicide, they let us know that there were only 3 people in the house at the time during his murder, yet neither one of the suspects are being held legally responsible for it. And in 2015, Lil Snoop's mother received a letter from the Winfield Police Department stating that the investigation would not be pursued further and that the case was closed. On the channel, they let us know that minutes before Nipsey Hussle was killed, he took a pic with the woman that drove his killer to the scene. When addressing the murder of rapper Trouble, they let us know that Trouble's killer was the ex-boyfriend of the woman he was visiting that night, and that the two had broke up only 5 days prior to the altercation when Trouble was killed. They also covered the helicopter crash that killed Kobe Bryant and the airplane crash that killed Aaliyah. In reference to the crash that killed Kobe, they let us know that the helicopter didn't have a terrain avoidance warning system, which is a safety net to help reduce incidents like the one that occurred. They also let us know that first responders, including police officers and firefighters, shared photos of the deceased bodies. When referring to the crash that killed Aaliyah, they let us know that the pilot had traces of cocaine in his urine at the time of the crash. Just 12 days before the crash, the pilot was sitting before a judge, being accused of 3 felonies, including stealing a toolbox, a toy airplane, trying to sell $345 worth of stolen aircraft parts, and possession of cocaine. He had only been on the job a few days when he took the flight. So y'all go check out the great content being produced by Dose of Mystery. All right, guys, if you like the content, I want you to like and subscribe. And if you can think of a channel that you think should have made the roster, leave it down in the comment section. Peace.